Well, hello, and welcome to this, the fifth in my series of video blogs. In the great outdoors once again on a beautiful July morning. To give it some time context, Brazil were just knocked out of the World Cup a couple of hours ago. And I wanted to show you this jasmine here, which we brought over from the old house. And I wasn't sure it was going to take, but here it is, flowering beautifully and giving us a wonderful scent in the evening. Hoping over the next few years it's going to fill out that area of the deck and keep us entertained, as it were, for many years to come. Well, it's been a busy time in the studio. Things have picked up quite a bit. I've just finished reading this book called Moscow Sting by Alex Dryden. It's the last of what you might call my series of Russian books that I've had over the last couple of months. Fascinating book, a contemporary spy thriller. And if you're looking for some relevance to the real world, they talk here about how Putin's Russia is trying to hire American agents to help them spy on industry and government and so on. And that's exactly what seems to be happening on the East Coast, where they arrested 11 people just this past week. With that, I've been reading that during the day, full of Russian accents and so on, and confusing myself by preparing this one in the evening by Deon Meyer. It's called Blood Safari, and it's set in South Africa, originally written in Afrikaans. The translator's been kind enough to leave several sentences of Afrikaans in the text, as well, of course, all the names and places of South Africa, and a lot of slang from Afrikaans and even a couple of other languages. I tried contacting Deon Meyer. He emailed me to say, "I'm afraid I'm in the wild Karoo," which sounds fantastic if you can say that. I always wanted to say that to somebody. I'm sorry, I can't talk right now. I'm in the wild Karoo. Anyway, he's coming back from the wild Karoo in a few days, and I will talk to him then. Got a long list of words to discuss with him. Fascinating book, and if your interest has been piqued by the World Cup being set in South Africa, this is a great book to immerse yourself in some of the culture, admittedly the criminal culture, you might say, but there's a lot about the environment and about modern South Africa in here, and the transition between the apartheid regime and the current situation over there. Fascinating book. I'm doing another one of his books. He's quite well known in other parts of the world. He's won several awards. I'm doing 13 Hours. That's another book of his that will be coming out later this year. But that Blood Safari is the one I'll be recording in about a week or so after Deon comes back from the wild Karoo. Now, a couple of questions about audiobooks I've been sent. One from Kyle, who reads for the blind and dyslexic occasionally, and she said she was driving home one day and she felt she hadn't got the rhythm of the book she was reading, and she wondered, does that affect me, and how do I let it affect me? Well, here's the thing. Occasionally I'm lucky enough, if I don't feel I've got a book in the first few chapters, I restart. I don't have a studio with a lot of people hanging on my every word, and I will throw out something if I feel like I haven't got the accents right, I haven't got the sense right, the rhythms right. And I'll have another go. But one thing I wanted to pass on is a note that came from an acting teacher some years back, which performers are very judgmental about what they do, and I can understand if you don't feel like you're quite getting it, you can get very demoralized. And he said, you know, you can go on stage one day and you can do a performance like this, fantastic, that was brilliant performance. Next day you go on and you feel like your performance was a bit middling, or even lower than middling, and you can let that get you down. Well, don't, because the audience out front, even if they see the show 5 nights in a row, may only see that much difference. Basically, if you've done your preparation, if you've done the work and you've got the confidence of your years of ability behind you, don't worry about it. It'll be there. And if it drops out briefly, it's not so noticeable to an audience as it is to you yourself. And if you let it bother you, you're on the downward slope. So basically, it's just have the confidence to know that you've done the work, you've done the preparation, you've put in the preparatory work, it's going to work for you. The other question I had was from Akila, who sent in several questions. One I'll address right now is about conversations. How do I deal with dialogue? Because she said I do such a good job that it's like watching a movie. And that's exactly what I do. In my head, while I'm reading, I see the characters, and I can slip, about effortlessly, but after 25 years of doing audiobooks, it feels effortlessly, between the accents, between the people, and I keep them straight. Even if the author doesn't necessarily say he said, she said, in my mind what these people are saying makes sense coming from this person, so it's easy for me to instantly click between it. And I know there are narrators who might choose to record some dialogue separately from one person and someone from another and put it all together because maybe the accents are very different. But I wouldn't do that because it's noticeable. It's very noticeable when a narrator does that. The only occasion when I've done something like that is a book that's out right now, and that's called Paul is Undead, which is an oral history of the Beatles in an alternative universe, you might say, as if they were zombies. It's quite funny, but what they've done is take, like an oral history where you take a big paragraph from one person, and then somebody else speaks for a whole paragraph, then somebody else speaks for, well, a page or two or three, and they're telling their own story, and it's slipped in like a documentary, an oral documentary. And for that, there were so many people, 50 people, and say, I don't know, Timothy Leary appeared at one point, then didn't appear again until later, then didn't appear again until the end of the book, something like that. Well, I'd have worked on an accent for him, and I'd want to keep it the same, so I recorded those bits separately, and then we put the whole book together. And I heard from the author via a tweet to say he really enjoyed what I'd done, so fingers crossed that worked. But other than that situation, no, it just comes... Dialogue for me I have to do in the moment. And those are the questions today that I'm going to answer. We don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to now, because I'm not recording today, I'm going to go and do some manly work about the garden. The weeds that I talked about have pretty much died down, but the clay has dried up and it's pretty solid. We're hoping in some areas to put down flagstones, like these, called sloggers. Wear these in the garden, they're great. I'm going to go do some manly work. It's kind of nice to get out of the studio, I have to say, and hit things with a pick. Talk to you again soon. Bye.